So, we have new details on the Wizard of Oz remake, and I've got some thoughts. Hello fellow Ozians, and welcome to the channel. So recently we got some updates on this new Wizard of Oz remake that is set to be released at some point. The film's director gave some interesting insights and changes that he's made to the story. We'll be today looking at an article from Screen Rant. This one is named Perfect Time to Switch the Characters. Wizard of Oz Remake Confirms New Setting. Director and writer Kenya Barris has confirmed a new setting for his upcoming remake of The Wizard of Oz. The classic 1939 film follows a young girl named Dorothy Gale who is swept away from her home in Kansas to the magical land of Oz. While additional media, including movies, have been part of the franchise. That's an interesting way of wording it. The original still stands as a memorable piece of cinema history. Speaking with Variety, however, Barris said his upcoming remake of The Wizard of Oz will change the setting from the original story. The Black-ish creator revealed his rendition of Dorothy would be from Inglewood, California, living in an apartment complex called The Bottoms. Check out what Barris had to say about the movie below. The original Wizard of Oz took place during the Great Depression, and it was about self-reliance and what people were going through. I think this is the perfect time to switch the characters and talk about what someone imagines their life could be. It's ultimately a hero's journey. Someone thinks something's better than where they're at. And they go and realize that where they're at is where they should be. I want people to be proud and happy about where they're from, but I want the world to take a look at it, and I hope that will come through. So before we move on with the rest of the article, there's a lot in there. The biggest one, of course, being that he is changing where Dorothy is from. And just right off the bat, I don't know that this is going to go down very well with the general public. As far as Oz fans are concerned, I'm just kind of going to look at this in a broad spectrum, because one of the biggest parts of what makes Dorothy recognizable as a character is that she's from Kansas. And I'm just really confused as to why someone would want to change an integral part of Dorothy for their movie. That doesn't make any sense to me. Especially when you want people to connect with your movie and to make those connections with The Wizard of Oz. After reading this, I thought about the movie version of The Wiz and how Dorothy isn't from Kansas. In that version, she is from New York City. And I actually wonder if that's one of the contributing factors as to why that film didn't connect with people. It might be because Dorothy's actual origin of where she's from changed, and people kind of looked at that and went, that's not Dorothy. I don't know. Maybe y'all can tell me down in the comments if that's something that bothered you about the movie version of The Wiz, because the play, Dorothy's from Kansas, and it feels more like The Wizard of Oz. I don't know. But that aside, the other thing that I also want to point out with this article that he says is that he mentions that the original is from was set in the Great Depression. The original. Okay, so I'm assuming that all of us know that MGM's The Wizard of Oz was not the original Wizard of Oz movie. It was, in fact, a remake itself of other Wizard of Oz movies that came before it. And also, the movie was slightly based on the Broadway play that came out in 1903. It took elements from that, as well as L. Frank Baum's book. So, do I have a lot of faith in someone who doesn't know that MGM's Wizard of Oz is not the original Wizard of Oz movie? Yeah, I don't have a lot of faith, because that means you don't actually understand what the Wizard of Oz is and what makes it the Wizard of Oz. That is a problem for me. Now, I don't think that all movies should be made by fans. I don't think that's the way that things should go. But I do think that as a filmmaker, if you are going to take a property that is well known and well loved, I think it is part of your job to be able to look at that, analyze it, and find out not only what makes it what it is, but also why people like it the way that it is. And to at least honor what that is and make that represented in what you're going to do with it. Because I don't know. Whenever people just base what they're doing off of the 1939 movie, they typically don't understand what that movie was actually doing and how that movie actually came to be and what inspired the different elements of that movie. So that kind of bothers me and makes me a little worried about this movie. Besides the fact that, for some weird reason, people don't actually understand that The Wizard of Oz is set in a time period. The original books, while they were contemporary with America during 1900, it actually, today, of course, it's set in 1900. So it's set during the turn of the 20th century. It's not set during the Great Depression like what the MGM movie did. It took it and made it present-day America then in 1939. So I don't know why people feel like they need to make it modern when it's set in a time period. Because we don't typically do this with, like, Alice in Wonderland. I think most people, when they think of Alice in Wonderland, would go, oh, it's set in the Victorian era. No problem. But for some reason with The Wizard of Oz, we look at it and go, oh, well, that needs to be modern. And it's like, huh? I don't understand. What? Really, the only movie, big blockbuster movie that actually set it in the time period that it's supposed to be set in is Return to Oz. And I recognize this is totally not going to be another Return to Oz, but it could be another Return to Oz in an aspect of people not understanding what it is. Ugh. The article continues. The Wizard of Oz is an adaptation of L. Frank Baum's 1900 novel, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, reimagines the story for the silver screen. Since then, there have been several adaptations, remakes, and additions to the franchise. Yet again, we're calling it a franchise, which... The Wizard of Oz really isn't a franchise. I mean, like, you can't really make a sequel to MGM's The Wizard of Oz because Oz is a dream. And you can't really make a prequel to it either because Oz is a dream. Yeah, weird phrasing. From 1978's The Wiz to 1985's Return to Oz. In November 2024, the first part of a film adaptation of the Oz-inspired Broadway musical Wicked will be released in theaters as well. However, the original version of The Wizard of Oz has stood the test of time as a beloved movie, remembered for its classic story, characters, and songs. While the change in location from Kansas to California shows Barris has his own vision for the story, duh, it calls into question what other aspects of the original will be altered in the remake. Well, yet again, wording and phrasing in here. MGM's isn't the original. While it's possible a remake of The Wizard of Oz could capture the spirit of the original, I wonder which original they're talking about. It's unlikely to be as well remembered as the Judy Garland-led source material. It's still possible the movie will find an audience, though it will be an uphill battle to win over viewers given the iconic status of the original. With only these few details revealed about the film, though, it's best to reserve judgment of the movie itself for when it arrives in theaters. Well, that's a really nice way of saying, don't judge. Well, too bad. Let me know what your thoughts are down below on these new details and strange changings as far as Dorothy no longer being from Kansas. Very curious what you think about that. Anyways, thanks for watching. And if you liked that video, please give it a thumbs up, comment down below, and subscribe. New videos are posted every 2 weeks on the 15th and last day of each month. And if that doesn't satisfy your appetite for Oz, follow the link in the description to ozclub.org and join the International Wizard of Oz Club. Until next time, bye y'all.